panel is the urgency of now. This is GC Now, and we've got a now panel. And I'm going so much, it's so now, I am going to Botswana on Friday. I'm jumping on a plane right after this, because you gotta look at why now? You gotta look at the numbers. We have 1.2 billion people living in sub-Saharan Africa. 70% are under 30. We need to create jobs, jobs. And we got two people who are working really hard to create that system, but we got to do it right now. First, speaking of now, Tshepo, welcome back. And noted this, you've had a big week here, not just today, but the economic summit that was announced with Bridgewater and Global Citizen this October in Cote d'Ivoire. Harith is a big part of that, and maybe you could tell us what role you're going to play in that summit in October.
Thanks for that, Randall. I think we've been developing and infrastructure across the continent for the past over the past 18 years, and when you then see an initiative of Global Citizen partnering with Bridgewater to try and get more sort of like private sector capital, to the continent. I mean, we can't be more sort of like, happier than that to see these sort of like leading brands and, agitating for private sector capital to come and support the replenishment place of IDA. But in addition to that, ensuring that the private sector can come and be a large part of that, because public-private partnerships are what is needed, and that's sort of like long-term capital.
It's true, and that the private sector can't do it by themselves, and the public sector, to really be sustainable, you need both. You're focused on infrastructure, really. I mean, so tell us what your philosophy is there.
I think what we believe is that until...
How you define infrastructure, because it's not just roads, right?
Yeah, I think we look at, mobility, that's logistics in all its various forms. We're looking at energy and power. We're looking at the telecommunication sector. We're looking at water and sanitation projects. But I think in the last while, what we've been focusing a lot more on from a platform point of view is that on the issue of mobility and energy. Because until you address the issues of mobility and energy for the continent, you're not going to help aggregate the continent's economies to sort of doing that. And as you've said, you've got it's now getting closer to 1.4 billion people, and the median age being 18. You really have a challenge, how then do you get this global dividend of growth also being felt across the African continent? Yep. So therefore, the type of initiatives like this, which then agitate for long-term capital, on the same basis, which can say that, we can invest on the continent of Africa, which has, coincidentally also lower default rates in project finance, transactions of just over 5%. In Asia, it's 6.1%. South America, it's just over 10%. So the risk on the continent is not as perhaps it's really made out to be. And we are really urging for the much more longer-term capital, from fund managers, and then to be able to get this towards the continent.
Again, long-term's the key, because we need to build this last line. Djimon, you're doing a lot of work here too. Now you're from Benin. You're just right down the road from Cote d'Ivoire. Give us a sense of what it's like, the economic kind of situation is like in West Africa right now.
The economic sense of Benin, Republic of Benin, where I was born, a place that is between Togo and Nigeria. A beautiful place, but yet deprived of a lot of things. Obviously, the immediate trading good of the country is agriculture, cotton, oil, and some textile, and some regional tradings. But that said, the GDP of my country is growing steadily at 6% annually. And so that sounds good, but at the same time, a lot needs to be done. A lot more needs to be done to uplift that country. I myself was born in the country, left at the age as a teenager with a dream of bettering my, my education. Unfortunately, we all saw the idea of bettering self outside of the continent, and the hope is that the youth will stay and see its future within, you know, within its own land. One thing that I like to stress is the idea of dreaming. And for the youth of Africa, dreaming, for me, is a progressive way of thinking that is vital and instrumental for one's advancement, for the advancement of your household, for the advancement of your community, and therefore uplift the future of your country.
You're naturalized American, yes? And
yes.
So you know, you talk, you know, your life is a lot, it's the American dream, but what we're talking about is creating the African dream. So let's talk about maybe your foundation. You're working on, you know, a lot of what you're working on is connecting the African diaspora back home. How does that work?
My foundation was created to really uplift the Afro-descendants. The foundation was, of course, we started in 2020, the anniversary of 400 years of the transatlantic slave trade. But the point of the foundation is to bring healing to the triangle of the slave trade, which is Virginia, Liverpool, Richmond, Virginia, Liverpool in UK, and the west coast of Africa. There's so much that needs to be done. We're invested in the aspiration of the diaspora, the African diaspora. We're invested to, what's the word?
Well, what you're doing, go ahead.
No, to bring healing to Afro-descendants. So, of course, we're invested socially and, spiritually, contrary to Global Citizens, who is invested, financially and economically. But that said, the role of my foundation is to be able to curate trips for Afro-descendants between the age of 18 to 29, for them to experience the rich heritage
go back to the roots. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
The rich heritage of your roots.
Well,
right.
One of the great parts about this is how you use your platform. And again, you haven't forgot where you came from, and I think that's incredibly noble. Tshepo, thinking about how we activate all those young people. I mean, entrepreneurship obviously is at the heart of it. Djimon was referencing that too, that we give hope and we empower young people. How's Harith working to empower young entrepreneurs specifically?
I think, unless because that's a serious issue for the continent. I mean, as we've said earlier, the median age being 18, and that's like in excess of 50%, 40% of the population is like under 15. So we really need to find, innovative ways to how then do we create the inclusivity? How then do we create opportunities? How then do we also then create hope for all this energy within all these young people to sort of give them the hope that there's sort of, there's something beyond where they find themselves. And I think and our involvement, I think especially like with Global Citizen, is especially premised on that thing of saying, how then do we get and agitate for policy across the continent that gets the leaders on the continent to do the right thing? And in the issue of working with young people to be able to do that and drive that change, I think is what we find attractive in agitating for those policy change, because you need the leadership that you have now to do something about that.
So for summarizing that in one word, you'd say hope.
Yeah.
Hope is the word. We're out of time, but Djimon, one word. If hope's one word, what's another? When we talk about the urgency of now, what's one word we could take away?
I would say become a true global citizen. I would say to be on the right side of history and to stand for social justice and embrace diversity.
Great way to end. Thank you both for everything you're doing. We appreciate it.